guys, Marty Schwartz here with Marty Music, hanging out with my buddy Dave Kushner, who is the guitar player in Velvet Revolver, and also is now a TV and film composer, more recently writing the theme song to Sons of Anarchy and F is for Family with Bill Burr and a bunch of other killer stuff. Great guitar player, great dude. We're going to have a cool chat. Thanks for coming, Dave.
Thanks for letting me in.
Yeah, man. Tell me how Velvet Revolver came to be.
You know, I went to school with Slash since middle to junior high. We used to call it junior high. Now it's called middle school.
I called it junior high too.
So yeah, we went to junior high and high school together. We'd known each other forever. It was the early 90s. And I was in a band called the Electric Love Hogs, and Scott was in a band called Mighty Joe Young that became Stone Temple Pilots and Tool and Rage, and we were all kind of coming up at the same time. So I'd known Scott, like I saw Scott the night that he got signed. I remember seeing him at a club called Shamrock, and he was like, dude, we just got a record deal and we got blah, blah, blah. And this guy, he's like Rick Rubin's guy, like this guy, Brendan O'Brien, like who, you know, he kind of cut his teeth doing all the SCP records as a producer, you know, and kind of got his name. Obviously, Brendan's incredible musician and everything on his own, but that's kind of how I knew all those guys. I had become friends with Duff because I was playing in a band and we played a show in Japan, and he and I were the only two that weren't drinking. So we found these like Japanese near beers and we were like, yeah, near beers, you know? so we just kind of bonded, and then we came back home, we became friends, and not through music, you know, we would just, Duff's a big reader, and he would say, dude, there's this movie coming out called Black Hawk Down, and I read the book and it was awesome and we should go see it, you know, and we'd go to the movies together. And yeah, we just became friends that way. And then we started to play together. He had this band Loaded that was like his thing he was doing. And then we were playing together and we were sitting in Swingers, this diner in LA. And I remember Matt lived around the corner, and Matt came in and me and Duff were there, and he sat down and he's like, dude, you know, Randy Castillo died, Ozzy's drummer. And it's like, we're going to put together this benefit, and, you know, will you play? Not to me, but to Duff, you know, saying like, dude, it's going to be, you know, we're putting together, I got the guys from Buck Cherry, I got us and blah, 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 and we'll do it. And I was just, okay. Yeah, I was just watching, you know, and so they said yes, and he said yes, and they did this benefit. They played, and Keith and Josh from Buck Cherry played with those three, and Duff and I were actually started a project together at that point, a music project too, because I had written these songs on my own. And Mikey Fitz from Fitz and the Tantrums was a local guy who I had became friends with, and I was writing this stuff just on my computer, and Mikey Fitz would come over to my house and sing on it, played it for Duff. He was into it. He's like, let's make a record. It was me, Duff, Mikey Fitz from Fitz and the Tantrums, and Joey Castillo from Queens. And we were recording, and then Duff was like, I remember getting the call, we were at Rumbo Studios where they did Appetite, and Duff was like, dude, you know, I think I just really got to see how this thing goes with, you know, Josh and Keith and Slash and Matt, because I haven't played with Slash in forever, and it just feels really good. And, you know, I'm sorry, but I just kind of got to do that. And I was like, oh, because I felt like I was so close, like, oh, I'm going to be in a band with Duff. And, you know, and one more time, it was like the other shoe dropped, and I was like, wah, wah. And eventually they split from Josh first, the singer, and then from Keith. And I remember Duff called me, and he was kind of prepping me like, hey, you should learn these songs we wrote and a couple GNR covers and come down. That night he called and said, dude, you got to come down tomorrow. I was like, oh, what? Like, you know, and I went down, and, you know, funny thing was I went down, I had my pedal board, you know, and I jam with Slash and Matt and Duff. And then I went to get my pedal board at the end.
To take off.
Like, yeah, and they're like, no, just leave it, just come back tomorrow. I was like, okay. And dude, I swear to God, I felt like for the first 6 months, like I was there.
Kept
yeah,
your
and
they
didn't try anyone else out. I was there every day, 5 days a week for at least 6 months. like.
And did you record
songs.
before you ever played a show? You like make some demos or?
Well, what we would do is they were locked out, right, in a room Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 every day. And we just started writing songs, right? We had a couple texts there, and Slash used to have this big thing that was almost as big as this whole area on wheels, this little, like it had an 8-app machine, and it had like a receiver, it had speakers in it, but you could take it on the road.
Mobile recording.
And so we would just record live and just write songs, and with no vocals really. And we did it for 10 months, until Scott came in, but trying out people along the way and all that stuff. They never really said like, you're in the band. All right, it's us four. I was just there, and it kind of felt like, am I in the band? Like I'd pull Duff aside, like, dude, am I in the? It's like, don't worry, dude, it's cool. And
so what was the first show? Did you already have your album? And
we would try people out, right? And then after like 10 months, there was some rumblings from the manager. We had a manager, and he said, I heard Scott's out of SDP, and I think he and I went to the same gym, so I gave him a demo. And then we talked, and then I forget exactly how it happened, but then it was like, we gave him some blank songs with no vocals, and he sent back Set Me Free. And it sounded exactly like it does on the record. That's not the version, but I mean, it was like.
It was there.
And we had been looking for so long, and we were like, this is it.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so crazy. Like, when you hear just really bad and mediocre, and then you hear Scott Weiland, and you're like, it's like,
no brainer.
That's the guy, you know, like he's the whole
Can you
package.
play some Set Me Free? Like what you did in it?
Oh, there you go.
It's good for people to actually know that, guys
We're
from
not
famous
machines.
bands don't remember every single thing they did.
Dude, I think Kevin Griffin from Better Than Ezra.
Oh, yeah.
This is his guitar I borrow. But he said today, I'm here in Nashville and I'm staying with them, him and his wife Erica, who works at Gibson, and told me to say hi. But he said there's times where, I have to learn old songs of mine, and I go on Marty's site and I learn, and it's like, that's how I came to know you, because in between tours, I forget everything.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't go online to relearn my songs. But then in LA, there's a lot of
different covers you're going to be playing.
There's these cover
events.
bands. Yeah.
Like
corporate
all-star
events.
guitar events and.
Dude, and like,
Freddie's Dead? You did that?
No, but I played a lot with Camp Freddie, Royal
Camp
Machines.
Freddie, that's what I meant. Camp Freddie.
Yeah. And, it's like, I got to learn Wonderwall, or I got to learn this, or like, whatever, or some Bowie song. And that's how I discovered you, because it was like, oh, I got to go to Marty's site.
I mean, some of mine are more accurate than others, because I've just done thousands of them, and, I've made mistakes or like did a little workaround because it would be easier for a beginner student. But I usually say I'm like 95%.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll definitely get you through a cover of it.
Yeah.
People get so anal about being meticulous, but
I like that about your thing too, because I remember seeing you say that.
Yeah.
It was it wasn't a disclaimer, but it was like, this isn't, this is kind of
also,
so you can play along.
Are you playing it by yourself? Are you playing it where it's normally 2 guitars in the band, but you're the only guitar player?
Right.
Like, do it this way because you can combine.
Are you Slash and Dave?
Exactly. No, that's true. It's true. Or just the fact that a guitar player can't accept that are the exact same chord.
Right.
And they go, no, you put it right there. And I go, oh, you mean which one? Which one's right?
Yeah.
It's like the exact same voicing, exact same notes. But Dave Kushner of Velvet Revolver and Sons of Anarchy theme, what's the first riff you ever learned?
This one. It's funny, when I first started playing guitar, my mom had a nylon string, like classical guitar in the house. And I picked it up and I was like, this feels weird, but maybe this is cool. And I tried to learn Stairway to Heaven and it was too hard and I quit.
It's not a good first song.
No, but I didn't know, you're just like picking it up and you're like, I want to play that. And I couldn't get it. I didn't play guitar for 2 years until I was 16. And then I, started
You
playing.
got to learn the one string riffs first and build up to it.
So I didn't play guitar. And then I got super into punk rock. And I was like in 9th grade, there was these kids that went to Fairfax that were in this band called Mad Society, which was this kid punk band.
Cool.
But it was at the time when they were playing with Fear and the Circle Jerks and Black
Agent
Flag
Orange?
Agent Orange and The Crowd and all those bands were happening in LA at the Starwood and all those things. And so we used to go to these gigs and I mean, the singer was like 11. This little kid, it was the bass player's brother, Stevie Metz.
And just like screaming like.
Yeah, just full on. He had like Adam and the Ant, like make like, lines on his face. He was kind of wore moccasins and he was badass, but he was 11, dude. And and they were playing shows with like Fear and Wasted Youth. But there was a girl guitar player in the band. Her name was Kathy Sample. And I remember she showed me how to play a bar chord. And I learned how to play bar chords before I learned the cowboy chords. Before I learned, And I just was like, you can move this shape around and play like any song. And then she showed me like, wait, the roots on the A string. And that's how I started playing.
So fun. And you were in LA, man. You were during the heyday of like you said, those punk bands, but then you have the whole Hollywood music scene of the 80s and 90s. I mean, that's a incredible time.
Yeah. It's amazing to be there for like the punk rock thing, like when the Decline of Western Civilization movie came out and I was like in the middle of that scene and Okie Dogs, which was like where all the, the hot dog stand where all the punk rockers would go after the shows and stuff, was literally across the street from Stephen Metz and Louis Metz. They lived across the street. That's where I hung out. And then being there again for, Rage and Tool and all that scene.
Now, did Tool grow up in LA? Or did they move there to be in the music scene?
I don't know. But like it was, I think because everyone was in their early 20s and everyone, it's like there'd be 4 guys in an apartment and it was like, oh, my roommate's in a band called Tool and that guy plays in this other band and and it was kind of like that. And Maynard used to hang out with us. Talk about, dude, judging a book by its cover. Like Maynard, so I was in a band called the Electric Love Hogs and Maynard would hang out with us. In fact, on our first record, there's a caricature of Maynard. And this was before, like right when Tool was starting. Maynard was super quiet and super...
introverted or shy? Yeah,
just shy. So Maynard was cool, but he was shy. And, he would hang out with us. And he was like, hey, you should come check out my band. And I remember thinking like, oh, Maynard's cool, but I don't know, he seems so shy. Like, what's it going to be like? And I kind of just went on.
Kind of wrote it off a little bit.
And then I remember going to this club where I could get in free. And I just walked in, dude, and Tool was on stage. And I was like, holy shit. Like, are you kidding me? And Maynard was out there in full Maynard mode with the mohawk and I never even knew he had a mohawk because he would wear like those fisherman hats, like a bucket hat. And I was like, what, dude? He has a mohawk, and he had like that big scorpion tattoo he has down his back. I'm like, we got a tattoo, and that's his band. It literally is just like blew my mind. And I was a fan ever since. And
amazing.
I will say I'm going to, on screen, take credit for helping them get a record deal.
I love it.
I had the demo. My friend Anna Loynes worked at Zoo Records when Zoo first started. And I said, you have to check out this band. And she was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And she took it to Lou Malia, who was the president of Zoo. And she said, when are they playing? I said, they're playing at the Coconut Teaser next week.
That sounds like a fake club.
I know.
In a movie.
It was, and me and Anna and Lou Malia all went together to see Tool, and she ended up signing them.
Nice work. Lukewarm
You're
water.
Welcome, Tool.
Lukewarm water over here.
You're
But
welcome,
they gave you
Adam.
5 points on the whole band, so you're good.
They gave me 0.
Okay, so I want to change subjects now to your post Velvet Revolver career, because you, just like my career wasn't an intentional decision. It kind of worked out. But you, not everyone is going to know this, but you actually did the theme song to Sons of Anarchy.
I did.
So that's an amazing thing. And that's kind of been your more modern gig, is composing for TV and, whatever else composing you can do for images. And also F is for Family with Bill Burr, who's a good buddy of yours. And can you play the Sons of Anarchy riff? Did you get picked to do that because of the mustache?
The song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was all mustache.
It was the mustache,
right?
and then it's like, come up with something, mustache man. Come on, mustache man. And I was like, oh. No, I had that riff actually. My friend Bob Thiel. Thank you, Bob, for the second half of my career. He had gotten the job to be the composer and music supervisor on Sons, but they hadn't shot anything. I remember we were sitting down in a diner, and he was trying to describe it to us. He's like, it's kind of like the Hells Angels meets the Sopranos, and and we're like, what? And he's like, it's about this biker club, but it's like a drama, but it's this and that. And we're like, what? This doesn't make sense. And we just started talking about music and bands, and he said, do you have anything? If you want to write, we should write something. Because I was throwing out band names like, what about, you should get Clutch songs, and you should get like Monster Magnet and all these kind of biker-y, in my mind, cool bands. And I think that was enough to have him go like, well, let's write something. And I immediately, out of fear and wiring, was like, and I just said, okay. And thank God I did, because literally it just, from that moment, gave me a second career. I had written that riff because I was playing with Shooter Jennings at the time. Like, we're friends, and we were just planning on possibly doing something together. And I wrote that riff with him in mind, because it was kind of a rock, bluesy, little southern-ish thing to it. I brought that over, and I was like, well, I got this riff, And we made a song that day. We wrote the whole song in a matter of hours with the vocals and everything, and Bob sang on it. We wrote the lyrics together, and we wrote the whole thing. Again, dude, it was like Velvet Revolver. It's like, it took 6 months before they said yes. Literally, the show, it was the week before it was gonna come out, and they were like, well, we put your song in the credits kind of as a placeholder. And we were like, what? I remember being at the premiere at like Paramount Studios with like Kurt Sutter and Katie and everyone there. And it was there, and it was like, oh, it's awesome. Seeing it like, the opening credits, but it was kind of like, well, we'll see. It just felt like, and then everything changed, And
then it becomes a huge hit song.
Yeah.
I mean, hit show.
Yeah.
Which is, and you never know that's going to happen.
Dude, it's so crazy. Like, yeah. And it changed, like I said, it changed everything, because then we got nominated for an Emmy for, for the main title for the song. And, then I was like, okay, I got some action in this arena, I need to parlay this, and the band was with CAA. So I went to CAA and said, maybe I need an agent or something. I don't know. And
what do I need?
Yeah. And then Bob ended up being the music supervisor on a ABC show called Detroit 187, which was like a hour-long cop drama. He asked me and my best friend, this guy John O'Brien, he asked if we wanted to do the music for the show. And we gave him some music, and we got that gig. And that's really where I learned to score, which is very different, obviously, than just writing a mini song, and really, like, it's a whole different way of thinking. It's a whole different, you're writing for emotion, and you're trying to lead the watcher to an emotional, on a ride. And And I didn't know how to do any of it because I didn't go to school for any of that or all the terminology or, you know, it was like a cue, oh, I can do that. My friend John had done it before with Vince Vaughn, and he was like, you don't even know what a cue is. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And I get it. I didn't know, like we'd get these arguments and, you know, I just learned everything then, you know, like time code and spotting session and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And there's so much, it's so different. And and you're working within the confines of a bigger, you know, you're just part of
You're one piece,
yeah,
one cog in the machine.
Exactly. And that was my thing. You know, it's like, oh, I got to get a different setup. I got to get a computer and I got to get a thing to get the music in the computer. And it was a really big learning curve.
Amazing. Is there a riff you wish you had written?
Yes.
All right, once again, want to thank my buddy Dave Kushner for coming out, having a cool chat, some jams. You know, follow Dave on his social media. We're going to have links down below for people to check out. And you've been making some cool clips, storytelling, riff teaching, all kinds of cool content that you've been making. So want people to check that out. And once again, dude, thank you for hanging. I really appreciate you taking the time out, and that was really fun.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks, Marty.
We'll see you guys later.
Peace.